Welcome back, everyone. Today I want to share with you a game that I feel is too often overlooked within the fighting game genre, and that is Eternal Champions. Developed and released in 1993 by Sega, Eternal Champions is often compared to Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat for obvious reasons, but its unique fighting system really sets it apart from either of those titles. The controls utilize a 6-button scheme, with your punches being the top 3 buttons and your kicks being the bottom 3, and you really do need a 6-button controller to properly play this game. If you have the 3-button, you can use the start button to switch between your punches and your kicks, which is really not practical. Performing your special moves takes a little getting used to, and this is the main complaint about this game from a lot of people. Rather than performing the more typical quarter circle movements like most fighting games, in order to do your special moves, most of the time it requires you to hold multiple buttons at one time, which can be a little bit awkward on the 6-button controller. This game was designed with the Sega Activator in mind, and this may be the reason for some of the unorthodox special moves, as it might be easier to hold 2 buttons at once rather than performing quarter circle movements on a motion sensor. Another typical complaint about this game surrounds the use of the inner strength meter, which appears as a yin-yang on the left and the right side of the screen. This meter drains as you perform your special moves, and once you're out of inner strength, you can't perform any until you've given it time to recharge. This was generally a pretty unpopular decision, as it limits the number of special moves you can perform within a given fight, but I think it's actually good because it keeps people from spamming a certain special move over and over again. Anybody remember this jerk from back in the day? Or how about this guy? All I'm saying is I think the inner strength system might have some merits. The game also includes several practice modes, including the orb here, and there's also a holographic fight, but that doesn't record very well, it just looks like you're fighting no one. There's also the battle room, which you can see here, which is you can sort of pick out your obstacles, all kinds of saw blades, bolts, fire on the floor, buzz saws, all kinds of stuff. And so that really kind of adds a lot of fun to the mayhem, especially if you're playing 2-player. All in all, I think this is a pretty great game. I think the inner strength system forces you to take a more balanced approach and save your special moves for opportune moments. I think this looks incredible. It looks as good as anything I've ever seen on the Genesis. And if you're using an arcade controller, the special moves are really not all that hard to perform. My only real complaint about the game is that if you're playing it in single-player mode, it is just too hard. I mean, it is really hard. And also, the computer cheats when it comes to the whole inner strength meter. Sometimes they'll run out and just keep hitting you with special moves. One of the other cool things about this game is that it does have finishing moves, but they're not character specific, they're stage specific. And usually they involve being in a certain place on the stage and then hitting your opponent with a hard attack. And so this can be really difficult to perform. And what you're watching here for the most part is me playing 2-player and just setting them up, because that one that you just saw a minute ago happened naturally, but it is very rare for it to happen. And generally, I think it's kind of cool because it kind of happens by accident. You usually don't plan for it to happen. You just end up being in the right place at the right time, and you get this sort of bonus. And I remember back in the day, and I did have this game back in the day, remember it was kind of awesome just randomly all of a sudden there would be these finishing moves here. And while they're certainly not as gruesome as most of the Mortal Kombat finishers, they're still pretty cool.
These are my champions. Let the contest begin.
Not so fast, my friend. You didn't notice our 4 new contestants. I withheld them, hoping to hasten your destruction. But I weary of all this scribble and scrawl, so I too shall join your contest. Be warned, my power will destroy everything you hold dear.
Sega released a sequel, Eternal Champions Challenge from the Dark Side, in 1995 to the Sega CD in North America and Europe only. The original 9 characters return along with 4 new ones at the beginning, and you can also unlock 12 characters, which include animals, and the animals honestly are totally useless. I mean 100% useless, unless you just want to have some fun making a chicken and a monkey fight, or watching an owl headbutt a snake, you know, if that's your thing. The gameplay style remains essentially the same, with the addition of skill moves, which are unaffected by the inner strength meter. They've added an incredible number of single-player tournament modes that could really keep you busy for a long time, so this really gives the game a lot of replay value. Unfortunately, the practice modes and one of my favorites, the Battle Room, are gone from this edition of the game. It also makes use of the enhanced capabilities of the Sega CD by incorporating Red Book audio, which sounds great. But I will say that there's maybe a little too much electric guitar, and some of the stage themes don't really fit the stages all that well. Probably my favorite music and stage in the game belongs to the unlockable character, the Senator, where you fight in front of a McDonald's while an electric guitar version of Hail to the Chief plays. So enjoy. I also think it's pretty hilarious that the character sprite for the Senator is clearly modeled after Larson. I'm not sure what they're trying to imply by modeling him after a 20s thief and gangster. I almost couldn't believe it was possible, but this game actually looks even better than the first one. But it does retain the unfortunate difficulty in single-player mode, so be ready to do a lot of practicing. They also added a ton of finishing moves in this game. In addition to the standard stage-specific overkills, there are also sudden deaths and Cinekills, which will play full-motion videos of the character's death, and they're pretty cheesy and pretty grainy. But at least if they're going to use full motion video like every other Sega CD game, it was as kind of an add-on and not part of the gameplay. They've also seriously ramped up the gore in some of these kills, and yeah, just be prepared. There were originally plans for a third game on the Sega Saturn, and in that game, wins and losses in the different time periods would create an evolving storyline that would be different every time you played through the game, which sounds really cool. But unfortunately, Sega was promoting Virtua Fighter at the time, and they just didn't think there was room enough for 2 fighting franchises. I think both of these games are really well made, so if you're into fighting games, you should give them a try. And since you can get both for under $30, it's one of the last good deals on the Genesis. As always, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks for watching.